The story originated 3 years ago. He was my high school classmate. Our parents were both employed in the same enterprise. The two families maintained close and amicable ties. Our relationship seemed to progress naturally as a result. So, in my daily life, there was a bit less mystery and a tad more mundaneness. Every day when I returned home, I would either be online or else sleep in. I was extremely content with the status quo and showed no drive. For many women, getting married might be the start of a stable life. But for me, I discovered a broader and more insatiable self. I felt that everything about me was overly mediocre and dull. But this was merely my own thought. I secretly harbored this idea within my heart. My husband was oblivious. Even my family was in the dark. Like numerous newly married women, I yielded to such an ordinary existence. I taught classes during the day, did household chores and watched TV at night, desperately suppressing the upheaval in my heart. It was in this state that I met Yang Yu. It was an inspection arranged by the school for city leaders. Among us teachers privately, we detested such ceremonious occasions the most. But that day, strangely, when all of us teachers sat in the lecture hall, listening to the leader's speech, everyone couldn't help whispering among themselves. This leader who addressed us was very young. He was rather handsome, refined and gentle, with a scholarly demeanor. He was kind and without any airs. His viewpoints and thoughts on education all made everyone feel refreshing. I was also deeply drawn to him. Several young female teachers even went up to ask him for his autograph. I found it amusing in my heart. Later, I heard from our principal that this young leader was highly promising. I heard that he was a key cultivation target. He used to be a teacher too. This incident passed swiftly. The impression of this young leader was soon diluted. Coincidentally, in the second half of that year, I was dispatched to a rural school for training, to teach those rural children for a month. It so happened that he came to this township for an inspection. I led the children to welcome him. When I saw him, I was ecstatic inwardly, but remained composed on the surface. He didn't seem to recognize me that day. There were only him and his driver. He inquired about some matters related to the school, then conversed with the township head about something. It wasn't until he got into the car that I said, "I also heard your speech on education at our school." He was stunned for a moment, seemingly recollecting as well. So, I smiled and turned away. I had no intention of currying favor. I merely wanted to say a word to him. Unexpectedly, he suddenly stopped me, saying, "I'll give you my phone number. If you have any thoughts on educational issues, you can call me and we'll communicate promptly." Looking at his eager eyes, I thought there was an additional meaning in what he said. After that encounter, we had no contact with each other. I didn't give him a call, only sporadically received brief text messages from him, containing just a few words of blessing. But I admit that I have feelings for him. There is that kind of impatient, strange yearning and concern. Often, I stand alone in the empty large classroom, silently murmuring his name, Yang Yu, Yang Yu. It wasn't until 3 months later that he suddenly called me, asked me about something in the school. I could sense that this was a test, or rather a friendly gesture. I politely conversed with him and carefully elaborated on the school affairs. I think his purpose wasn't this. Sure enough, After discussing some official matters, he began to delicately inquire about my hobbies, asked what sports I like and what books I read. The affectionate attitude was like that of an old friend we've known for years. I told him that I enjoy watching movies. He said, "Okay, when I have time, let's go watch together." That tone was as if I were his girlfriend. My heart pounded rapidly. I knew our relationship began to shift from ambiguity to substance. I said, "Okay, I'll wait for you to have time. I'll definitely go with you." It was like a promise. I awaited the arrival of that day. Half a month later, he truly sent me a text message. He said he had a car and happened to be free on Sunday. "Let's go to Zincan for 2 days. Can you take a leave?" I said of course I could. Just like that, I began to prepare for the trip. I told my good friend Yan, "I want to go out and play with a friend for 2 days. If my husband asks, just say I'm with you." Yan smiled and asked if I was in love. I said no, just worried that he wouldn't permit me to go. She smiled at me ambiguously. I deliberately avoided her gaze. Just like that, I spent 2 days in Zincan with him on Saturday and Sunday. There, we stayed in a mountain villa that he had arranged in advance. There were few tourists there, so we didn't have to be overly cautious when we were sightseeing. There, we took strolls together, discussed the current hot topics together. That feeling was just like being lovers in a passionate romance. This is what I want to marvel at. In his arms, I even felt that all this was so surreal. Life finally presented me with the scene I had yearned for. We could genuinely find that kind of tacit understanding. For me, I felt unprecedented happiness and sweetness. After returning from Zincan, we maintained intermittent contact, only via phone. I could sense that he was very busy. Perhaps, besides me in his life, there were other women. Although it was just a speculation, I thought it was natural. He was so young, so promising. There were naturally many women around him. But, as long as he had me in his heart, I would be satisfied. For him, I didn't have too many expectations. He was a very measured person, never made promises to me, but also rarely mentioned his family in front of me. I mean his wife. What he demonstrated was always so restrained and rational. 1 month after our date, he suddenly said he wanted to see me, and promptly made an appointment at a place. It was a tourist spot far from the urban area. It was also very secluded. He still came by himself in a car, and dressed very low-key. In that private room, he couldn't restrain his excitement and said to me, he was promoted again. To be honest, I wasn't overly excited in my heart, but I quickly realized my position in his heart. He wanted me to share his success. This made me very thrilled. That day, we both drank a few more glasses. He said to me, "It will be even more challenging for us to meet in the future. I really miss you, because you are a person who can control your emotions, and not flamboyant. I feel at ease with you." Yes, it's understandable that he thought so. Among the women with him, they would all take pride in him. It's inevitable that they won't do something presumptuous, but I was an exception, because I was tired of the overly placid life. That's why I liked to be with him. I truly loved him, but it was never possible between us. This couldn't but be a pity between us. Dates became increasingly scarce. I think the spiritual communication between us was more than the physical contact. After he was promoted, We almost had no dates. I missed him more, missed every detail when I was with him. We never said that we loved each other, but I fell in love with this way of life. I even thought it would be nice to live like this all the time. Although this was an extremely risky existence, on my birthday, I suddenly received a call from him. He said he wanted to give me a special gift. Just at noon that day, I was summoned to the principal's office. It was said that there was an opportunity for a short-term training in the UK. There were only 10 places in our city, and I was the sole one from our school. I was so astonished by this surprise that I couldn't utter a word. I hurriedly sent him a text message to express my gratitude, but he didn't reply. Just like that, I went to the UK. When I came back, I realized that I was too naive because the looks that many teachers gave me changed. Then rumors spread. I was a little scared and sent him a text message. He still didn't reply. I increasingly felt the pressure of public opinion. Just when my husband was transferred to the long-term office in Changchun, I followed. At that time, despite the opposition of my family, I resigned. Just a few days ago, I heard the news that Yang Yu was double-regulated. I only knew that when I sent him a text message, he was already under investigation. How could he have the mind to reply to me? I felt sad that I couldn't assist him. He was found to have numerous economic issues and life problems. It was said that there were at least 5 lovers. In the subsequent days, I don't know how I got through. The yearning for Yang Yu, the fear of his rest. Also, I was worried that one day my name would also appear on the investigation list. I truly hope all this is just a nightmare that vanishes as soon as possible.